All right. Welcome, everybody, to Dream. Draft rules, everything around me. Y'all know what it is. We here for episode, oh my God, 3? Episode 3 of Dream this year. I believe this is. So, welcome, welcome, and welcome to everyone tuned in. If you are tuned in to the live show, thank you for being here. You are listening to Dream on the Knicks Film School network of podcasts affiliated with the Blue Wire network of podcasts. And Dream is one of the many shows we've got where you can come in and talk to us live. So I'm your host, Chris Persianen of WFUV Sports. And of course, I'm trying to point to the logo in the corner. Sorry for listeners, Knicks Film School. And you're tuned in to and ask me anything pretty much is what we've got going on. If it's not your first time listening to Dream, sorry about that, but I'd like to welcome in people who are joining us live and welcoming themselves to the family of dreamers here. And listen, man, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So March Madness is on, Rage is on. The tournament continues. And it's fun. I'm having a good time watching these games. We've got some good underdog victories. Um, you know what? Let's talk about that quickly because I think it's a good lesson that March Madness is so much less about who has the best NBA prospects and so much more about the best coaching and the best team, the most depth in the rotation. Now, Jordan Hawkins, currently number 16 on my big board, is who I would say is the best prospect remaining in the NCAA March Madness tournament. Out of the 4 teams that are left, FAU, 9 seed, San Diego State, 5 seed, Miami, 5 seed, UConn, 4 seed. He plays for that 4-seeded UConn team. Maybe not a coincidence that the best seeded team remaining has the best prospect, but there's an argument that he's not the best player, just the best prospect. So Hawkins has been fantastic. And we talked a little bit about him last time out here on Dream, but I want to revisit that. I want to revisit that conversation because receiving that question on Hawkins made me want to go watch more tape and feel more confident in what I was saying. Because when you watch the games live, you have a tendency to overhype the big shots and over exaggerate the extent to which the bad shots are bad. Like when you're going through the ups and downs of a game live, it's different than when you can sit and pause it and watch it with a more measured mind when you're not in the madness of March, right? And so I went back and watched Jordan Hawkins' most recent game from the tournament. This kid shoots like a maniac. I mean, I tried not to overstate his shooting ability, get too excited. I feel like I should have just leaned into the bit. Like I regret not just being myself behind the mic. So I'm going to do it now. Jordan Hawkins is a sniper, flat out, period. That kid can rip the pill from deep. And listen, he can do other things too. Now, there are scouts out there that are really smart, that are actually smarter than me, because that's not too hard. And guys like Jonathan Wasserman over at Bleacher Report have Hawkins number 40 on their board. Not a big fan of what he brings to the table outside of his shooting, but there are other analysts out there like the great, the venerable Presidente of the Strickland. And he sees Hawkins as someone who can do all the little things that are part of having a full scoring bag. And I was talking to Prez about this on Draft Strickland, an episode that will come out soon. And we were discussing how I'll use a different analogy here, but like if everyone's got a bag, right? Like Hawkins already has the hem and the seams, like they're all done gorgeously already. He has all those little wrinkles in his game already. It's just about applying them in the most optimal way. And I think that that is why I understated his game last time out. And then when I rewatched it with a more measured mind, I was able to notice because in the moment, you don't really notice. You just think, oh, that this kid is taking the ball, running with it, and ripping it from three whenever he can. But when you watch it back, when you watch clips back, I think you really notice, in my opinion, at least I notice more how skilled he was at creating space for himself off the dribble, what he's able to do in terms of uh, just with the ball in his hands, how adept he is at just being nimble. He's nimble out there, but he can shoot the rock. And so that is all cool and dandy. Now, the issues with Hawkins, and I would like to think I touched on this a little bit when I talked about him. But we'll do this all again. We'll redux this convo. Um, the things with him that aren't the best are the playmaking, the defense, what he brings to the table outside of his creation offensively. Now, I don't think he's just a shooter. I think he's a shooter and a shot creator. Can he translate that to creating shots for others? Can he bring the motor to the table on the defensive end to stick around and really give people hell out there? I think he has that dog in him to do that. I do. But it does have to show. I think at the NBA level, you're dealing with a lot more physicality. And I think that, you know, essentially you kind of have to reprove yourself. So that is that. Um, I want to give a little shout out. I want to give a little shout out to, I mean, do I go with APJP? Do I go with APJP? I got to give a shout out to my guy behind. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with APJP. I'm gonna give a shout out to my guy behind the boards, for putting this all together for us. I am ready to field questions. So, APJP, you want to send those through? I'm ready to take the people's questions as they come, but I've also got things prepared to talk about as we get there, as you can tell from my insane scribblings. So, let's do it. My big board came out. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can go to my Twitter page. It's twitter.com/Chris Persianen, and you can go out and you have the opportunity to see the top 10 players in the NBA draft of 2023, according to me. So I'll show you on the screen for those tuning in on YouTube Live. If you're listening to this afterwards, go check it out. It's the pinned tweet on my profile. But my guy Zach did a fantastic job of making my work look presentable and not like this. So thanks, Zach. Shout out to you. And go check out the big board, because that is what we're going to be running through right now. If you'd like to follow along as you listen to or watch this show, follow along with me. At number 1, we have Victor Wembanyama. And now these descriptors on my big board, you're going to see next to every player in a white box a couple words about that player. And to me, that's not a guarantee of what that player will be. It's a pretty high percentile outcome of what you would like that player to be if you draft them. Maybe 90th, 93rd, 95th percentile, around there. A really nice, really incredible top end outcome for Victor Wembanyama, I think would be an all-time great big man. He's an all-time prospect. He's an all-time big prospect, but I put all-time big for him because I do think that he's that kind of prospect where people are looking at him and saying, this guy is an all-time potential guy coming into the league. So Wembanyama, he is a guard. No, I'll put it like this. He's a wing that plays like a guard. You know, that style of player, wing that plays like a guard, except he's the size of a center and takes on the defensive responsibilities of a center. He's everything bundled into one. He can dribble, pass, shoot. Passing, not all the way there, but you just think with his height, he's going to be able to make some easy reads. But he's a dribble shoot big, which is crazy. And that's why at 7'4", 7'5", he's the number 1 prospect on my board. Now, number 2 on my board is someone who, among my close personal friends that I discussed the draft with, is a polarizing prospect relatively, and that's going to be Scoot Henderson out of the G League Ignite. I've got him as an all NBA engine. Um, you're really hoping Scoot can power up your offense and be the electric straw that stirs the drink. You know those mixers for milkshakes, just like and this thing spins around. And yeah, that's Scoot. He's nuts. He's a superb athlete, and what's cool about that is he's walking into the league as one of the best athletes in it, as is Amen Thompson, who's number 4 on my big board. And the other thing with Scoot is that athleticism unlocks so much for him. He has access to such game breaking tools and abilities. And I also think he gives off that floor general vibe that people love from young point guards that they hate if they don't have. I think Scoot has that. I think he has that ability to get out there, set the tone offensively, bring physicality to the defensive end, and also some good instincts. I think that he can really not start to translate, because they have started to translate, but he could against professionals, in the G League, but that he can bring to the NBA level and really show that he can be a dog on defense. Maybe you let him guard twos. You don't put him at the point of attack. I think you can put him at the point of attack. I think he can fill that role, even though it's, you got to be really good to fill that role nowadays. I think he projects to be able to fill that role completely fine with his size of his hands. His wingspan isn't crazy, but he's going to be really good on both ends of the floor if everything goes well for him. And so that's why I've got him as the all NBA Lamborghini engine of an offense at number 2 on my big board. At number 3 is where things, of course, early get controversial. Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. A lot of people have Cam Whitmore behind Amen Thompson. I have him ahead of Amen Thompson. And for me, with Cam Whitmore, it's really just like, I hate doing the whole comparison thing as the selling point of someone. Because I think if you're expecting a 19-year-old to become, an all-star caliber player or whatever, and that's how you're going to sell drafting them, and all you have is a comparison of like outlier development, I think that's a tough sell. But Jaylen Brown just keeps coming to mind with Cam Whitmore. Not the most prolific passer in any regard coming out of college, but you could tell he got it. Like he saw what there could be to see, even if he knew he didn't see it. And he's just really focused on being an athletic, jacked bully and whatever else. But to me, Whitmore, had such a concerningly low amount of assists in the minutes he played. But I really think that in a more spaced floor, higher paced offenses in the NBA, that rock is going to move more naturally, and he can get an assist a game, to start things out. He's really focused on being a good teammate. Like, I don't think it's a matter of, oh, you're going to get an assist every couple games from him or every game and a half. Like, yeah, I think in however many minutes he played, he had under 20 assists this year. I gave the right stat out on this show a couple weeks ago or last week. So yeah, not fantastic, but I buy literally everything else. I think to me, it's just, do you think he can pass the rock down the line? And I think he can. I'm using his athletic tools as the lens through which to look at him and his age and everything. And I'm just going to say he can figure it out. I'm going to bet on him to figure it out. And if he does figure it out, that makes him a really enticing wing to get your hands on. Incredibly athletic, that punch at the rim. He does not have the on-ball ability of Anthony Edwards, but in terms of the kind of explosive athlete he is, I don't know, how many people necessarily are going to be able to stop Cam Whitmore if he's driving from the corner, for example. I'm not talking about crossing someone up and being twitchy and lateral and everything right away. No, Cam's going to be, straight line guy right away. The handle won't be super overdeveloped when he comes in at the league at 19. Like, I just do think that you're looking at someone who down the line is going to be able to take guys off the bounce, who currently loves a step back three, and just is built like a big mound of muscle. Like, he's large, he's gigantic. And that means a lot to me, because if you trust your coaching staff, then you get that guy in the building and you let him grow into what you think he can be. You help him grow into what you think he can be. And I think the mindset's pretty similar too for my number 4 prospect, Amen Thompson. He is an insane athlete. Sam Vecini has said that he's going to walk into the NBA as like a 99th percentile athlete. I'd go like 97, 98 just to play it safe. But like, yeah, shout out to Sam Vecini for his amazing draft analysis. Shout out to Prez for his amazing draft analysis. Shout out to floor and ceiling and hoop intellect. Wilco and Keandre, my guys, do great content. Shout out to the scouting report. If you're not insane like me and don't have the time to watch all these full games, they clip it all together. And I watch those too. They really help me out when I'm trying to remember a game that I watched a long time ago. So shout out to the scouting report. A lot of people out there that make better content than me, that do great scouting reports, better ones than me, that I take a lot of inspiration from. So definitely want to make sure they get their flowers when I've got the stage to give them to them. Shout out to No Ceilings NBA. Shout out to Swish Theory, great new website. Great work being done all around by the draft community. And I'm proud of it. It's cool. And I'm honored that I get to be part of it now here on Dream and with Draft Class. So thank you guys for listening. As an aside, you are really appreciated. Thanks for popping out. Thanks for being there live. We'll resume the look through my big board, but first we've got a super chat to answer. Brian Tweebel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Twibel. I'm not going to continue to try. I'm trying to do right by you, but I'm just going to keep butchering it. I'm sorry. If it makes you feel better, my last name has gotten pronounced 89 different ways in the last 24 hours. Brian, great job planting your flag on Jalen Williams last year. How do you project another Jalen in Hood-Schifino? Is he a starter or rotation guy in your eyes? Brian, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. But thank you especially for the super chat. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that you guys support the work that I do. And it makes me feel a little less crazy when I'm up at 4 a.m. watching draft tape. My roommate's knocked out and I have to keep the volume on mute. And yeah, it's crazy being a college student and doing this. So you guys like bring a tear to my eye when you support, because you mean so much. So thank you. Thank you. Jalen Hood-Schifino is a dog and I love him. I definitely think Jalen Williams is the better prospect between the two. But that doesn't mean that Jalen Hood-Schifino isn't fantastic. And let's take a look at my board right now where I've got Jalen Hood-Schifino at number 15. I've got Jalen at 15, and he's right behind Maxwell Lewis, who's now at 14. And yeah, he's right above Jordan Hawkins, who's now at 16. So that's where I'm at right now with Hood-Schifino. I've got him 15th on my board, and I think you're gonna like what I have to say about him if you're asking because you're a fan of him. I would think. When you talk about the modern NBA, you think a lot about jumbo initiators. You think a lot about how your point guard doesn't have to be your lead offensive creator. You see lots of teams have jumbo initiators and lead creators that are not point guards. Jalen Hood-Schifino is someone who I think I can say something similar to what I myself or Deuce McBride was when he was a prospect. And I loved Deuce McBride as a prospect. I had Deuce, I think 21st or 22nd in his class that year. I was in on him as a first round graded guy. And I just really thought that in a league where you have a jumbo initiator on every other team, you know, getting your hands on a point guard that can guard the point of attack, hit open threes, make the right passing reads, and for, you know, not just the point of attack, but overall really bring it on defense. That, you know, that's kind of like the Drew Holiday model with Giannis. That's what has worked really well for a lot of teams out there, is having a point guard who can do the things you need, everything except for create reliable offense. And the reason for that is because you have someone else that can do that. So, you know, I actually really, I think that he's going to be really good. And I project Jalen Hood-Schifino. If I had to guess, I would bet on him becoming a starter long term. I do think that the potential is there in regards to his ability to guard the point of attack long term, to make the right reads on offense long term, and to be a shot maker, which is like, I'm trying to talk about everything but his shot making ability because I think that's the thing he's best at. So you're probably not as interested in my thoughts on that, but to give him to you quickly to wrap up, he is one hell of a shot maker. This kid will drive right at you, cross, punch step, and pull up. For those who don't know, a punch step is when driving in. Sorry for my listeners, I'm using my fingers to illustrate. You have one foot ahead of the other, and then you punch them inwards. So driving, feet are separated. You have one step, in front of your defender, and you pop back and take a jump shot. That's a punch step coming back. And Max Lewis is someone that has that in his bag. I've noticed Jalen Hood-Schifino has that in his bag. He is great at creating space for himself. He's so decisive. 6'4", 6'5". I think Hood-Schifino is a good bet to be a good defender in the league, a good offensive player in the league, and long-term, a starter. Brian, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the question. Thanks again just for watching and being here and hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys a ton. And Jalen Hood-Schifino is one of my favorite prospects this year. So I think that was an awesome question for you to ask. Hey, we got a question coming in from GMAC. Andrew Claudio, in case you don't know, because I'm going to do it, I'm going to embarrass you, Andrew. Andrew is getting his own podcast where he can talk about the Mets. It's going to be called Mets Therapy. Go tune in when it debuts, when it launches. You got to go support it because it's going to be an amazing Mets podcast. Even if you don't like the Mets, you like the Yanks, you like another team, you're going to love hearing Andrew talk about the Mets. So tune in. Let's answer this question. One question for you in your expert opinion. Stop. What is the best explanation the final four we ended up with? Did the committee seed this tourney poorly, or is Parity also finding its way to college hoops too? This is good. Thanks for the question, Andrew. Thanks for being here. And I would say that yes, the seeding wasn't exactly I don't think the seeding was done in terms of like these are the teams we think have the best shot in the tournament. The seeding was done and like let's reward these teams for their accomplishments during the regular season. And as we know from the NBA, playoff environment basketball is just different. And that's why you're seeing in college basketball an amazing team like UConn who plays with pace, but not an insane pace, just an up-tempo one, and has an incredible advanced shot maker like Jordan Hawkins. That's how they're still dancing. Teams like Houston, who are really good and talented, but don't play that fast. Marcus Sasser, a really good college hoops guard, but play too slow. They play too slow. And so I got to say that I think pace matters. I think the seeding reflects the parity in terms of, I think John Rothstein, everyone knows him as the most obsessed college hoopsman out there. He said not to be surprised before the tournament. He said not to be surprised if, you saw several 1 and 2 seeds not make the Final Four, not make the Elite Eight, because he just didn't see those teams as having amazing tournament chances compared to some of the underdogs compared to them in their division and their region. So I think that parity is finding its way to college hoops. I think that's the answer to your question, is that the NIL has brought parity to college hoops in a way that is different than before, and that more schools than ever have access to better players than ever. You're seeing schools in the WCC really come out and be real. Like Santa Clara is about to produce a potential first round pick in Mr. Brandon Pods. But we'll see if he goes first. They got a lottery guy in Jalen Williams. The WCC has more NBA guys in the Pac-12 this year. So I think parity is different in college hoops than ever, Andrew. But I also do think that the seeding, isn't. I think that parity resulted in there being teams that are regular season dominant and tournament dominant, and we're seeing those teams that are built for keeping the pace up when the game slows down a lot of those teams are making it through to the end. I hope that answered your question. I know it was a little bit convoluted, and if you want an answer that's just one or the other, it's parity. Go with parity, because NIL is changing the game. Got a question from Exhibition Continues. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the question. I do have people in the top 10 I can see falling to that 11 to 14 range. And it really honestly depends on what NBA teams think of these guys from the workouts. The workouts could change these predictions entirely. So this is not gospel. Obviously, nothing I say is gospel, but definitely what I'm about to say could change. But I would think Keontae George, unless he really wows teams in workouts, could fall to that 11 to 14 range. If you look at mock drafts going out from the guys with the most draft sources, you see Keontae falling a little bit. I know Sam Vecini just put out a new mock draft, I think this morning, where Keontae went to the New York Knicks with the 15th pick. So definitely feasible that happens. Because if Sam's got him falling to 15, then he can fall from 11 to 14. You know, Sam's really plugged in. I can't see Keontae falling as low as 15, but I've also been really wrong about this stuff in the past. So I would think he's drafted by that 12, 13 range, maybe by a team like the Knicks who just can't pass up on the talent. Maybe this is someone else that World Wide West gets really excited over, and begs the team to draft. Citing his experience drafting quickly as why they should listen. We'll see. Someone else would have to be Taylor Hendricks. And I really just think 11 is the spot. Like, I'm not sure he makes it to 13 or 14, but 11 or 12, maybe he could fall. Maybe. But I think Keontae George would be more likely to fall than Hendricks. Again, we've got to see how workouts go, and I will update this based on then. You know, please continue to ask me this, because I there's always going to be updated information. But as of right now, I would look at Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks as two guys that, are in my top 10 that really might not get drafted in that top 10. Thank you for that question. Exhibition continues. Much appreciated. Really, whether you're asking a question or not, thank you for being here. If you're asking a question, thank you for contributing to the show, for being part of it. I'm trying to just, do the best show for y'all that I can. So helps a lot when you guys tell me literally exactly what it is you want to hear about. Until we get another question, I will go ahead and go back to talking about my big board a bit. With Amen Thompson, his athleticism is incredible. And I do think that can apply to defense as well. I think what he can bring to the defensive end is much better than what he's brought so far. There's a stat that people use against Amen, which is the percentage of his plays in which he played in transition. Now, 15% of plays being transition, that's normal. And in overtime elite, for Amen's team, it was something like almost a third of their possessions were in transition. And so Amen and Osar really got a chance to run the floor and fast, which they're great at. They're fantastic athletes, the two of them, the two Thompson twins. But people don't consider the fact that faster transition pace tired out these guys, that they didn't put everything they could into defense because they needed so much energy to keep running and pushing the pace on offense. So I do think that the NBA game, floor is a little more spaced out. Amen might not have to work as hard to create. Obviously, he needs to do an insane amount of stuff to create advantages at the NBA level, but he's a walking paint touch, this kid. I really think that, he's going to look smooth out there. Again, I am not trying to loft these expectations upon him, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the only guy in the league that I can reasonably use to say he might look something like that on offense in his 95th percentile outcome. Amen. Everything goes right. That's what you're going to get, is that kind of slithery, weird creator that just seems to have these micro edges on the defense and a step, half step, eighth of a step ahead of them. And then just that speed, that handle, the passing ability, the finishing ability. I really think Amen Thompson is just one of those wow players. And that his potential reflects that. Now, I do think you have to look at the transition as he's not going to be doing that as much. He's going to be creating in the half court more. How will he do that without a jump shot? How will his jump shot come along? And because of the fact that there's that big of a question about him, I do think that if the jump shot literally never comes along, we saw with our own eyes how good Ben Simmons used to be. I know that's a controversial statement nowadays, but we were there. We saw it. We know it. The guy was really good without a jump shot because of his physicality, his athleticism, his vision for the court, his ability to create for others. And if he were twitchier and scrawnier and faster, I think you're looking at what Amen Thompson can be without a jump shot, someone who can zip past guys the way that he couldn't. He can't bully them the same way in the post, but that perimeter aspect of his game is there. So it's not a direct comparison. And if you believe in Amen's shot to develop, then it's definitely not one. But Amen's shot is really far away right now. And if you want to be realistic about what you might be left with if you draft him, well, if you can develop his passing and his defense, and you could get a really, really good two-way player, just not one that, you can space the floor out to 28 feet. But Amen is fantastic. And I do think that with his creation potential, he should be someone who you look at and think, yeah, like this guy could create offense for my team. I also think if you already have a creator, that's not a reason to not draft Amen. If you're the Pistons and he's the best player on the board, take the guy. Take the best players available. You need them. Take him. If you are the Rockets, take him. You need a creator. Put KPJ on the bench, whatever it is. Do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Amen is fantastic. We will resume talking about the top 10. We've got 6 more players to touch on, but got some more questions according to APJP. So let's get them up on the screen. Let's hear from y'all. Dirty Dancer, what's going on? Thank you for being here, and thanks for the question. Thanks for being part of the show. I know I'm saying it a lot, and maybe it's ringing dry at this point, but I just really want to let you guys know that it's amazing to me that I can say things about basketball and there are people that will respond and want to hear more. Like I can't believe it. So thank you guys for the support. Thank you for being here and for the question. Do you want Nick Smith Jr. even after his injuries and weak tournament? Nick Smith Jr. currently in the 12-13 range on my board. Someone that interests me a lot as a scorer, counters on counters, someone who I think has the potential to make some good passing reads in the league and find guys, pass them open, find them open. But I even at 6'5", I don't really buy the defense too much. I don't think he's someone who's going to be, stonewalling anyone. We saw how jacked IQ had to get, for example, at 6'3". At 6'5", Nick has got to add a lot of weight and bulk to really be stonewalling people. Can he have the instincts or, the scrappiness? I think he's going to be more of the Maxey Poole blend of player where you see that offensive, all that energy go to the spurts of offense. The defense is there for Maxey, but it's not incredible. Philly's on-off is pretty bad with Maxey. If you take a look into the advanced stats, his defense isn't some fantastic thing. It just exists. I think that's where Nick Smith will be at. I can see him being just like a Tyrese Maxey, someone who has a bag, who can create on offense for others, but mostly for himself, and who doesn't exactly lock anyone down on defense, but isn't, a turnstile either. I would want Nick Smith Jr. in the lottery if I were an NBA team. But if I were the New York Knicks with Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickley, even Quentin Grimes, a year until he's even extension eligible. Shouts to GMAC for that contract update the other day, because I didn't know that. I'm no Jeremy Cohen. But between all the guys that the Knicks have that they like to play at the 1, the 2, the 3, I don't think there's a great fit for Nick Smith on the Knicks, especially if he wants to get minutes. I think it would be a whole first year in Westchester for him, which is not, normal for a lottery pick that people think can score the ball on day one consistently. So, yeah, I wouldn't say he's the best fit for the Knicks, but a team like the Spurs could take Nick Smith and I think really turn him into something. A team like the Magic could really use him off the bench. There are a lot of teams out there that should be interested in him, if you ask me. Thanks for the question again. Ready, APJP, for the next one. Ben, Kim, Gervy, what's going on, BKG? Nice to see you in here. I'm saying hi to Ben like he's my neighbor because he basically is. We are both in the Knicks Film School Discord. You too can join the KFS Discord. I believe it's the $6 a month tier that unlocks the Discord for you. You can come in, talk in the draft channel with me all the time, talk in the cap channel with Jeremy all the time, talk in the general channel with everyone all the time. Whatever it is you want to bother Macri, Andrew, don't bother Macri or Andrew. But if you want to, or me or Jeremy or Sean with the W or any of your favorite KFS personalities like XJ or Mensa, come in our Discord. It's very cheap. Very, very affordable compared to some of the, big tiers of subscriptions. We've got bigger tiers, but the Discord's one of the smaller ones. Come hang out. Come chill with us. It's a really good time, and I really enjoy the quality of basketball discourse on there. It feels like I'm getting smarter when I talk hoops in there with our lovely KFS fans. Ben wants to know, who do I see as having the mindset, length, and shooting to make it at the 4 and 5 in 3 years, assuming they put in the work? I'm going to go with Taylor Hendricks. I'm not sure that he's a 5 at the NBA level. In fact, I'm mildly confident that he will not be a 5 at the NBA level, but I'm also confident in his athletic ability, and I'm confident in the tools that he showcases. I'm confident in not the instincts he's shown for defense, but the desire he's shown for defense. He really wants to play defense. He wants to play well on defense. He wants to block your shot. He just doesn't have the instincts of someone like a Jarris Walker, but that's because Jarris is arguably the best defender in this class, and that, Wembanyama's in there. Wembanyama's definitely the best defender in the class. Just thought about that for like 3 seconds. Jarris is probably number 2 though. And that's a lot because of his instincts and then his potential with his athleticism as well. Hendricks doesn't have the instincts, but he already is pretty good on defense. He has good instincts, just not elite ones. And he is really, really, promising in terms of that athletic potential as well. So Taylor Hendricks of UCF, kind of like my Tari Eason of this year in terms of this guy's a big wing who's going to get drafted lower than he should because teams are scared of what's going to happen if he can't shoot. But I think he can shoot. We'll see what happens. I think Hendricks will get drafted higher than Eason did. If you remember the draft class exclusive report that came out, that Eason had a couple of rough workouts that was confirmed by people on Twitter. Yeah, I don't think Hendricks has that issue. I see him as having the mindset that teams won't question, but we'll see how that goes. I do think Taylor Hendricks of UCF is the answer to your question, Mr. Ben. Thanks for being here. Thanks for asking the question. I appreciate it. Fictional with the question. Thank you for being here. Thanks for asking a Q. I appreciate it. Who do you think can be the Jalen Williams of the 2023 NBA draft? Oh, that's a tough one because Jalen Williams was a good cutter and a good everything. I liked his passing. I liked his defending. I liked his shooting. I liked his playmaking. I liked his propensity to get steals. I liked his scoring. If you're asking what prospect is like him in terms of, a good size wing that can hit threes and also do things with the ball in his hands, have some secondary playmaking potential, I'm going to go with Grady Dick, because Grady Dick out of Kansas is, like I said, arguably the best shooter in the draft class, but he's also got the ability to do other things with the ball in his hands. He has potential to play make. Given his size, it looks like he's going to be an okay defender, nothing crazy, nothing terrible. I think Jalen Williams, I really loved him. Better prospect to me than Grady Dick. but barely, or like just about the same. Maybe with the shooting being so elite from Grady's part, it's about the same. Because wow, I really did like Jalen Williams. You guys have been really nice today in bringing him up and not Johnny Davis. Uh, so thanks. But I think it's important we talk about that too. And Johnny Davis is someone like when I watch, a player like I was just thinking of like a Maxwell Lewis. When I watch like a Max Lewis, who's from the same conference as Jalen Williams, the WCC, he plays for Pepperdine, not Santa Clara, but he would be my pick of the Jalen Williams of this draft. Max Lewis, I think that's the real answer you were looking for. A wing that is going to go higher than people expect, or higher than, people say up until right before the draft, and who ends up being really good that like nobody was talking about during March Madness because he's from such a small school. He just didn't play in it. I do think Max Lewis is someone that a lot of people are going to buy into. I like his defense. I don't hate his defense the way people hate his defense. I don't see him as a liability the way a lot of people do. And on the offensive end with Max Lewis, I like his potential to be a shot maker. And I don't think he's going to be a bad shot taker. I think he can be smart out there on the court and create good looks for himself with his size and handle. It's really about the playmaking. Do you think that'll come along? And do you think the defense will come along? I think the defense will. So for me, it's about the playmaking. I don't think he'll be some stud playmaker. I think he's smart with the ball. I think he's going to want to become smarter with the ball. He's got that work ethic. It seems like from everything I've read up on him, I've read up about on him. So I'm going to go with Max Lewis is the Jalen Williams of the 2023 NBA draft, even though it's an easy answer because, again, those are both WCC guys. Thank you, Confictional, for the question. Brian with another super chat. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. You are helping either me get verified because I might have to do that now and cough up the $11 a month because even though Elon, man, why? Thank you. And if I decide not to do that, you are helping buy a broke college student some much needed coffee, and sometimes tea. I am a tea person sometimes. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to like embarrass myself and lose my mind over a super chat, but like, geez, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad you enjoy the content, or it seems like it at least. Thank you. Dolan gives you the keys for the offseason. What does the Knicks nailing the draft look like, assuming the Mavs pick conveys and is somewhere from 11 to 15? Brian, love this question. Thank you again for the super chats. I would say nailing the draft looks like a couple things. Number one, if somebody falls to that range like a Taylor Hendricks, you take them and you develop them and you figure it out later. Get that young talent up in the pipeline. If Keontae George is there, I think you take him and get that young talent up in the pipeline. If anyone that was in my top 10 is there besides Case and Wallace, you take them and get them up in the pipeline. If Case and Wallace is there, the Knicks have Jalen Brunson. The Knicks have Emmanuel quickly. The Knicks can trade down. They should let someone trade up who really wants a two-way force in Wallace. I have Wallace described as a two-way floor general on my big board, and that's because that's a really good outcome. That's a really good outcome for him. I think he could be that guy who sets the table on offense and is the quarterback on defense and really an elite defensive player. I think you let someone trade up for him because you've got enough guards, small guards already. And if all those guys are gone, if you're sitting at 11 or 13 and the best prospect on the board is a Nick Smith Jr., is it Anthony Black, is it Grady Dick, I think you're at the point of the draft where, yes, taking those guys would be good, but just take the guy you think can pay the highest upside. And I say this because the Knicks developmental staff looks really good after these last couple of years. And the Knicks are in a position that, they might not be in again, which is to have a lottery pick. And so, especially with a big star trade looming where the Knicks might trade a lot of their first round draft selections, I said last year to take a home run swing on Jalen Williams because it might be the last time they pick in the lottery. Dallas's pick went to the lottery. They didn't draft at all last year, but if they get this Dallas pick and it's in the lottery, take your swing now before you regret it, New York. Take that swing and do it on someone like Max Lewis, who if you think they can be an all-star, take them over a Grady Dick or a Nick Smith Jr. I wouldn't take Max Lewis over Keontae George or over Taylor Hendricks, but I would be willing to take him over the guys that are a couple slots ahead of him on my board. Because, and Prez of the Strickland has said this too, that's the strength of this draft class, is that middle portion, is that 7 to 15, 7 to 17 portion of the draft class is just, 7 to 11 is studs. 12 to 17 is guys that would normally go 8 to 12 in regular drafts. Like, this draft is loaded. Take advantage of it. Draft in that loaded spot. Now, if you really have intel, that's someone that you like for the final part, the third look for Brian's question. If you really have intel, that's someone that you like, whether it's Max Lewis, Jordan Hawkins, Taylor Hendricks, whoever it is, they're going to fall lower. Trade down, go get them. If they're not there, you got, tricked into losing out on your guy, whatever. You think someone there has star upside, take them. If not, punt the pick. Just play it smart. Take advantage of this board. Leave with someone up the pipeline. They need young talent up the pipeline. And I think the Knicks are at a juncture now where they're going to be consolidating. I wouldn't expect Barrett and Grimes to both be on this roster for longer. I think at least one will be moved, if not both, at some point over the next 2 seasons. And so you need young wing talent coming up the pipeline now, especially now that you have Josh Hart as a potential Grimes replacement. A bigger wing talent of the ancillary kind. You want to hit on a Trey Murphy type of pick. You want to hit on that guy that can come in and contribute off the bench, can take some shots, can create some shots, can hit the open ones, can bring defense to the table on and off the ball. I think Max Lewis really needs to come along on the defensive end, but he has potential there. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino has potential there if he comes along with just the overall efficiency. I think Jordan Hawkins really has potential there if the defense gets doggy. I think he has potential there. And so even Jet Howard, I'm not as in on his defense, but he's a bigger wing. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the ball. He's someone I think could be worthwhile as the Knicks for the Knicks to bring in as like a younger, twitchier Evan Fournier, like an athletic Fournier, someone who can come in and be like I'm trying to think of a different comparison for Jet, someone who's on the Knicks. Because the Evan comp doesn't do either of them justice. Jet can attack tilted floors. I don't think he'll tilt them himself, but 6'7", 6'8" with a legit handle, legit shot. Got a lot of good stuff going on. Go grab somebody in this range, that 9 to 17 range, or however you want to look at it. Get someone from the meat and potatoes of the class, which is, to me, in the middle to late lottery, because you're getting all early to mid lottery caliber guys. So hope that answered your question, Brian. Thank you for asking. Thank you for the super chats. Jay Vertical, what's up, man? Thanks for popping out. Thanks for supporting the stream. It's cool to see you in here. So thank you, man. Who, in your opinion, gives 1A vibes on a championship team? To me, it's Osar. This is tough. I think if I had to pick a Thompson twin, I would probably go Men, and that's because I don't know if I buy Osar's shot creation off the bounce to that point. Brandon Miller, to me, strikes me as someone that could be a number 2, Jarris a number 3, a 1A. Well, other than Wembanyama, if anyone has potential to be a 1A, wow, this is tough. I'm going to go with, if Keontae George hits his 99th percentile outcome and has a great surrounding cast, and he could be the best guy, the first guy on a contending team. Everything goes right, but I really don't want to loft these expectations on anyone in the class. I do think Wembanyama is going to get them, but he may not have to be a number 1 for this to be a successful pick. So, It's a tough one. Um, I don't think I'm there with All-Star personally, but I like that as a dark horse pick. It's fun. I'd go with Amen, um, with Victor Scoot, obviously the top guys, and Keontae George would be my dark horse of a 1A. That would be my sleeper pick. Thank you for the question, Jay Vertical. Much appreciated. Um, I want to add, guys, I'm down to go a little past 8. So maybe how about we say 8:05 for wrap, 8:05 instead of 8 today. Let's do 5 extra minutes of dreaming here together because we've got a lot of comments. There's a lot of you in the chat today. And I really appreciate y'all. I appreciate the super chats. Again, you're either helping pay for my verified check to help get my content out there to more people, an investment in myself and my own scouting, my own reporting, or you're paying for me to like eat. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Um, Thank you for the super chats. Exhibition continues with the rise of Emmanuel Quickly as the Knicks backup point guard / shooting guard / everything. Yeah. Where should the Knicks draft focus be? There are too many prospects for us to punt this year, even though the team has improved. Yeah, I don't think your Knicks should punt the pick. I think they should select young talent, bring them up in the pipeline, and keep some new, fresh rookie cycles on the cap sheet. I would say the draft focus should be on a big wing or a wing of any kind that can come in and bring versatility to the table offensively and defensively. Someone who can switch defensively to the 3 or the 4. Someone who can hit the open 3 but attack the closeout or pull up for a jumper, have a mix of those abilities. I would say a bigger wing, whether that be Taylor Hendricks, whether that be Max Lewis, even Grady Dick. Jet Howard, I guess, is a bigger guard, but he's a 6'7". He's a wing. He's out there. He's on the wing. I would say the focus should be on wings, but bigger ones, particularly because of the defensive and versatility related advantages. Thank you for the question. Exhibition continues. Again, guys are asking awesome questions today. Really appreciate you. Yeah, like how you felt. This is awesome. Thank you for the questions. All right. We have got another question from Mr. Ben. If the Knicks traded the Dallas pick at 11 or 12 for the 2 Indiana picks, which would be 25 and 29, who would you target? Cool question, Ben. I think this is a different look at the draft than I've taken on the show so far. So thanks for stretching it out in this direction. I do appreciate that. I will say first that I don't think the Knicks should or would do this. And the reason I say that so decisively is because they're in a situation now, and I think you'd agree with me here, Ben, that they've got too many good players for too few rotation spots. Many fans of the Knick faithful, many members of the Knick faithful, apologies, of Knick fans, want Deuce McBride to play, but it's not necessarily realistic for him to play given the rotation right now. So, yeah, I would not think the Knicks would look to grow in rotation players that they've got on the team. That I think they want to consolidate, but at the 25 and 29 range, number one target would be Jet Howard. If he's there that low, go after him, go grab him, go get him. Number 2 target would be Max Lewis. I think that's a range that he could fall to. Sam Vecini had Howard going 24 and Lewis going 28 in his mock today. I personally see those guys going higher, but Sam would know more than me. And the guys he had above them are all good. So, Kobe Buffkin, someone who he had above both of those guys. There's many have made the argument that Buffkin is Michigan's best prospect, and I don't necessarily hate that take. He's a year younger. Or no, he's the same age as Jet Howard. He's just a little younger. He just went to college early. So he's played several years in college, but he's the age of a freshman. Like, that's a total Knicks grab. Kobe Buffkin, someone else I think they should look at. I think he can handle. I think he can drive. I think he can pull up, has that potential. So, yeah, I'd look into Kobe Buffkin if I were the New York Knicks and they decided to trade back. He does need to bulk up as like every prospect ever does. But his efficiency was good. He's good. He's a sign that, he's outperforming the other kids out there. He's better than them today. He can come into the league and be better than them when they come into the league, and continue to grow from there. So yeah, I would say those three guys are good. And to give you someone else I haven't talked about yet, I will go with Julian Strother. Gonzaga, he's 21. I would say he was in the first round, out of the first round, in the first round, out of the first round, in the first round, back and forth throughout the year. But he had some good stats to end the year: 17, 18, 16, somewhere around there, points per game, round half of his shots going in. And I know he was a 40% three-point shooter to end the year for a good sample size. Shout out to Sam Vecini for that stat. So, yeah, Julian Strother looks good. He hit a really, really clutch shot in the tournament. And no, he's not a great defender. So don't think he would get early minutes for the Knicks, but I do think they would love to develop him as someone that, comes in and fills in for whoever is, anyone at the 3 or 4 has to miss a game. Strother would then get in the rotation, whatever it is that's going on. I think that would be someone they look at. I just can't see them moving down, but those are 4 guys for them to check out. I guess the shortest wing on that list that I could add would be Colby Jones. Jason asked me about him. Jason Meredith asked me about him last week. Colby Jones is cool. He's cool, good, decent shooter off the catch. I said he has Derek White vibes. He's well-rounded. He's 21, 6'6" wing, fake guard wing. Like he's cool. He's cool. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Ben. Yeah, let's do 10 more minutes, guys. Let's do 10 more minutes. Get in your final questions, your final super chats. Get in your thumbs ups and your shares. Share the stream with a friend. We got about 10 minutes to go. I will get back to my big board just to talk about one more player that's on there. And that's Keontae George. I've got him on there as a star combo guard. But me, I think he's very intriguing. And I just wanted to bring up one more point about him. If he hits, he's one of those guys that everyone feels stupid for not having in their top 10 or their top 8. But he really strikes me as one of those guys that people put at 15 because they don't buy the hype, and they end up being like, wow, that was too low. Sorry. Wow, that was too high. I should have gone with 20. Should have gone with 18, 22. I think that there are a lot of guys in this draft class who will come out and be, like sneak contributors to really, good teams, or the minutes are tough to come by, but I think there are guys that long term will look like they should have been picked over George. And I do just think that you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. John Macri, some of you may know him, once tweeted out during the Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray bubble showdown that, they were proof that if there's someone who's a combo guard that you think has the potential to create, to have upside like that you should bet on them. Because if they turn into that kind of player, you've hit a home run swing. And I can't help but think of Jamal Murray when I think of Keontae George. I think that kind of potential of being a stud guard, maybe not a perennial all-star, but someone who makes a hell of a lot of shots and who looks really good, playing off of a jumbo initiator. I absolutely think Keontae George has that potential. So I can't shake him as a top 10 guy just yet. But he may move down a slot in my next big board that comes out. Yeah, he might not. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll check them out before I leave. Should I release another top 10 next Monday? Because I'm going to be doing Dream again next Tuesday. All right. So today's March 28th. Next Tuesday is April 4th. I'm going to be doing Dream again on April 4th at 7 p.m. Same time as always. Would you guys like for there to be another top 10, a new one available ahead of that? Would you like for there, to be a top 14? Would you really want more rankings and try to get the Knicks range in there? Or would you prefer another top 10 and then I'll release a 14 later on, more updated? Basically, would you rather get the 10 next and then 14 later, meaning technically more updates, as in more new versions to see, more development to track, how I move them up and down my board? Or would you rather just get the 14 for next week? I can go insane this weekend and try to have it done to put out on Monday the 3rd. And then you guys could have a full lottery to ask me about during the show Tuesday. So let me know in the comments what you think. Um, if you think that you would really want the full 14, let me know. Don't be afraid to tweet at me or comment below. Let me know. I'm glad to work on that and do the work that it takes to get that done. It's just a lot. So let me know and I'll start now. All right. Two of you guys are saying to go to 14. So I'm going to aim to do that for next week. I saw two comments. Both of them were yes. So let's look at that for next week. I'm going to do my best to have a top 14 ready for you guys. And that way, we'll have more players to talk about, and I'll have a board done out to what will likely be the Knicks range if the Mavericks do win enough games to keep them their pick. But yeah, any questions, anything else, you can always tweet at me after the show too. I'll be glad to answer. DM, tag me, whatever it is you want to do. Let's rapid fire through a last few questions before we head out of here. We got a couple minutes to go. What's your take on Noah Clowney? What's his mindset and work ethic like? I will note this for you, Ben, for the next episode. I'm seriously going to write this down. I have watched a lot of Noah Clowney. I have not watched a lot of Noah Clowney interviews. So, yes, I've seen the player a lot. I cannot speak to his mindset or his work ethic right now. And I'm not going to be in the business of making shit up as I say it. And so right now I am marking down to watch several Noah Clowney interviews because I do this for every player, but Clowney was later down on my list. I will bump him to the front for you. That will be ready for you for next Monday. Do not fret, sir. But as a player, I think he's really cool. I'm based on how he plays, I would infer that he has a good mindset and he has the mindset of someone who will want to improve long term, and get better and play a role in the NBA and yada yada. I do believe in him and buy him long term. But in terms of his real mindset, hearing what specifically gets him going, what motivates him, I don't know. I'll look into some interviews, see what I can find, and update you on this next week during Dream. If you can't catch that one live, the recording will be available for you afterwards. Ben, thanks for that question. Let's get another one. APJP. I'm trying to get as many in here before we get out of here. If Tibbs is in the draft room, he slams the table for Kaysen, right? Ha. That is a good one. That's a good inference, but I'm tempted to say that because he's not necessarily a bursty point guard at all, and he doesn't really have that punch to get to the rim like that, that Tibbs might not care to develop him offensively over some other guys they could get in that range. Remember, Tibbs loved Josh Hart. Tibbs loves these guys that are gritty, right? But I also think that, he just drafted Deuce and they've got Quickly and Brunson. Thibodeau probably doesn't care the position too much of who they draft, but they told him they were drafting someone who had to play at the point guard spot. He might have a stroke because of the fact that, they already get mad at him that he doesn't play quickly enough at the point guard. Now he's got to play someone else that the fans are going to want to see. He might have a heart attack. So I actually am going to say no, he wouldn't slam the table for Kaysen. I think he would be happy to get him. I can try to dig in on this. Maybe I'll find out what he thinks, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get one more question. APJP. One more. We got 30 seconds. Let's get one more in there. Obviously, this won't end in 30 seconds. I'll say goodbye to you, people, and all that good stuff. But let's answer one more question. And if there's not one, oh, that was the last question. Okay, never mind. That was the last question. Thank you, APJP, for your producing throughout this show, for giving me the questions. I appreciate you, man. Behind the boards, behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Um, thanks for listening to me go on for 65 minutes about draft prospects and for chatting with me beforehand. I appreciate you. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Draft Rules Everything Around Me Dream. I am your host, Chris Persian, and I'll be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk more draft with you guys. We'll talk updates on March Madness. We'll talk updates on prospect stock. We'll talk updates on my big board. We'll talk who's in the Knicks range, who's not. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Remember, leave a like down below. Subscribe to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. Turn on notifications for the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. If you're listening to this afterwards, go do that anyway. Then leave a 5-star rating, leave a review, leave a like on YouTube, whatever it is. Show some support for your boy KP, because I am loving doing these streams with y'all, and I hope y'all are loving them too. Thank you for popping out to another Draft Rules Everything Around Me Dream. Chris Persian signing out from the Bronx.